Today is April 16th, 2011. We're at the San Francisco Hilton, Union Square. I'm Karen Perrone. I'm interviewing Cecilia Tittemore, who is at Dartmouth College. And Cecilia, would you like to tell us what you do at Dartmouth and how you've used the system over the years?
Yes, I'm head of cataloging and metadata services at Dartmouth College. And let's see, prior, in earlier iterations at Dartmouth, I was very, very privileged to be the co-system administrator for our innovative system, along with Jennifer Kortfeld, who was known as Jennifer Merrill at the time. And we brought up all of the modules beyond acquisitions and serials that were already in place during a multi-year project at Dartmouth before I entered the position I'm in currently.
Okay. How many IUGs have you been to, and when did you start coming?
Let's see, I think when I did the count for this conference, it was somewhere around 13, but I unfortunately can't remember the exact number. But I was at the Claremont for the first meeting and remember that very clearly. And I'm very excited to have been able to be at so many meetings since then. It's always a highlight of the year for me.
Do you have any memories of what went on at the Claremont or leading up to it?
Wow. Let's see. At the Claremont itself, I just remember incredibly beautiful surroundings, gorgeous weather, more flowers than I had seen in months, and so many people who were just so excited and happy to be getting together for the conference. I remember a big group photo being taken that was sort of a big joke at the time. And a really, really good coffee shop down the hill that Jennifer and I just couldn't stay out of. And seeing the Berkeley campus for the first time and everything. And I actually had a flashback to that when I came to this meeting this time, where the super shuttle I was on this time went up the same highway into the city that Kathy Klemperer had driven us up. She was our head of library automation at the time and had worked at the UC system, so she knew the area really well. And so here we were in a rental car flying up the highway straight into Berkeley with a lot of local connections and stories being made at the time. So those things are all very clear to me, and making a lot of new friends and meeting a lot of new people.
How do you think Innovative works with the users group?
My impression, and I should say I've never actually held a users group position, but my impression as someone attending a lot of conferences and talking to a lot of user group officers is that this is an incredibly positive relationship. And I think it's one of the things that's really set Innovative apart in the library vendor community because of their openness and willingness to work with such an active and intelligently run users group as this has always been. It's really kind of a complex situation to have an independent group that is in many ways determining its own future and acting according to its own bylaws and rules, but working so closely in support of the vendor's product that it all comes together so well. So just seeing the mixture on the programs every time of sessions the vendor offers, but also many of the user sessions that have vendor representatives in them, or at least in the back of the room at times just to answer questions, has always been a really important mix at this conference, I think.
Have you seen many changes over the years through the conferences that you've attended?
My first reaction to that actually is no, other than the size increasing so dramatically over time as the users group itself did. But I still feel the same very easy, casual way of being able to meet people who I often don't see any other time during the year except for here, but have been able to maintain relationships with over all these years just because of the contact at this meeting. And the years that I have missed the meeting, I always feel like I'm, losing touch with folks during the time. So the face-to-face contact to me is what this is really all about. And that's true as well with the relationships we're able to maintain with the members of Innovative staff. The number of them they send to these meetings and the fact that we sort of have conversations that have gone on over so many years is just a very rich part of working with the system.
How would you say Innovative works with the IUG?
That seems to be a very positive relationship, but again, I'm sort of secondhand on this because I only really know that by talking to other past presidents who put conferences together. But I've always had the impression of joint committee meetings or setup meetings or whatever. I should probably add to that it does seem as if there is a great deal of input that the users have in these conferences that seems to come out in product development, where obviously the enhancements process is a major part of that, but there's a lot of conversational interchange here that I think enriches the product a great deal.
Have you worked on the enhancement procedures over the years?
I've only been a voter.
Okay.
A submitter
fine.
and a voter.
You have given a few programs through the years. You want to talk about some of those?
Yes, actually the main thing that I've done at these conferences was to participate in a small panel with Martha Rice Sanders and with Ann Kababian on 3 different approaches to doing authority work in the system. And we did that the first time at the Santa Clara conference and then decided to update it because we'd all changed our work a great deal about 8 or 9 years later. And then we did it again the subsequent year because we had been put in a room that was too small for our audience and the overflow couldn't fit in. It was just a crazy coincidence that has just made us laugh a great deal. So we had a chance actually to run through that 3 times, and each of us sort of played different roles where we had different approaches to the way we did that work. But it was just a wonderful experience to be on the other side of the microphone. I'm not a public speaker. I don't do a lot of presentations, but somehow this was a very easy group to be able to do that.
It was a great program.
Oh.
Do you have a favorite conference?
Ooh, favorite
Good,
conference.
with any memories of that you want to share?
Let's see, a few different things come to mind here. I have a fairly sharp memory of what must have been actually a users group meeting at an ALA. The year that Fred Gertler was president and hosting the meeting, and I have this very clear memory of Fred standing outside the room, personally greeting every single person who walked through the door with a big handshake and a lot of conversation. And when I saw him doing that as I first approached, I couldn't believe he was doing it, but then I watched for a while and he was talking to every single person who came in the room and making them, I think, feel very, very welcome and really fostering that sense of community that the IUG has always had. I'll just absolutely never forget that. I have some memories of the Houston conference because Jennifer Kortfeld was I think president during that year, if I'm remembering correctly, and that enormous, strange shopping mall and the skating rink, and this sort of world within a world that we ended up in. It was actually hard to get out of the building and find the outside at all in Houston. And some very clear memories of having dinner with Fred and with Eileen Rockman at that meeting that I'll never forget as well. The Providence meeting, I think I met more people at probably there than any other time. And Providence was very, very vaguely familiar to me from when I was about 6 or 7 years old and lived in the area. So it brought back a lot of things, just seeing Federal Hill and all of those sites. But I'm talking about all of the peripherals around the meeting and not really the content itself. I think really the main thing has been all the people I've had a chance to meet in those spaces that I actually can associate meetings with some of the hotels or the physical spaces that we were in.
You want to talk about some of those people?
Let's see. Well, of course, Jennifer is way at the top of the list because I always had a chance to room with her at these meetings, and it was always a very special time for us to hang out together and not be at work and just be able to play for a while. And, of course, watching all the work that she did with the users group was just an extraordinary thing to see so close up, and I feel very privileged to have seen that. I also can remember, as I was thinking back over people, I have a recollection of just how generous Peter Murray always seemed to be with all of the knowledge and expertise that he had, and how much I learned from him with that. Thinking back to sort of earlier days, because Dartmouth was an Arlen site, we had a rather tightly knit group of belligerent Arlen users who used to get together and join arms and make as much noise as possible. And I think my real pals in that were Ann Myers at Boston University Law at the time, and Howard Pasternak from Brown, where Dartmouth and Brown, of course, always share a great deal of common concerns and interests. But Howard was able to articulate very sharply some of the unique features of the Arlen system, and how those features affected interaction with the innovative system. And he gave us a lot of secret workarounds and things that he had developed that Dartmouth was able to use. And of course, at the top of the list for all of that would always be Fred and Eileen, and the friendship that developed with them from these meetings as well. And every meeting they made so many contributions to.
Why do you think the IUG has thrived through all these years?
Because people work so hard. There's so many really, really smart people who work really, really, really hard to keep this going, and it shows in every conference the incredible skill with which these very complex meetings come off. But I just so much admire the strength of the whole board, the elected board, and the way that folks work together. But I've always just had the feeling that it was a particularly intelligent and clever and creative group of people who just could work together, incredibly well. So that would be my answer for that.
It's amazing how everybody volunteered for everything like that, too.
How does that happen? We don't have any time in our days to be doing anything like that. But when I saw how much time it took Jennifer to do that 3-year cycle through that, I really was impressed with that.
Do you think the IUG is still relevant?
Oh, absolutely. And with the announcements being made at this conference, with the product essentially reinventing itself and moving forward in this way, it just becomes more and more relevant over time, I think. I don't see that ever changing.
Okay. If you were to offer a suggestion to the incoming chair of how to make this well-oiled machine work a little bit better, do you have any suggestions for her?
No. No, I love these conferences just the way they are, actually. I can't think of any improvement, really. I think increasingly this is all about being able to just stay connected with people, and the sort of tools that are being built on the IUG website to enable us to stay connected after the conferences are over is probably one of the most important development areas there is. I was just in a session today that was calling on Innovative to create yet another wiki space as well, and you can see where people want to be able to do that kind of social interaction outside of the conferences. So I think the work that's been done in the IUG web is really a very good and a very important area to keep developing.
Do you have any other memorable moments that you'd like to share?
Yeah, like someone asked me to do this oral history, and I was like, well, you've got to be kidding. No, let's see, memorable moments. I've probably run through about as many as I should right now. I can certainly think back on a lot of different cities that we've been in, and the proximity that we had back when it was small enough to be in Berkeley and Oakland and so on was certainly very interesting, although now that we're back in San Francisco, it's really achieving the same thing.
Oh, that's okay. And we're glad that you took some time from your schedule to come and talk to us
Oh,
today.
I'm just delighted to be able to do that. Thank you, Karen.
That's great. Thank you so much.